What's up, everybody? Tanner Larson here from Mech.Game along with Mr. Bill, and we are going to be diving into the first of a whole series of Mech.Game AMAs focused around the play-to-earn economy, breeding, forging, making money from your NFTs and all of that kind of stuff. I'm kicking this off with my video on, although my internet is being kind of laggy today, and I don't want it to drop out on us, so I'll kill my video as we get going, but I wanted you guys to, of course, to see my face, know that we're being transparent as always, and then we'll go ahead and dive into things. So what we're going to do today is mostly it's going to be me supporting Bill. Obviously, the tokenomics background, been kind of instrumental in both the Pegaxy side, did a lot of Axie, knows what it does, and has come on board with Mech to really dial in our tokenomics. Today is not a deep dive, okay, because we haven't even introduced the broad concepts yet. So we're going to show you what we're doing differently, how different things are going to work, answer questions, and then each different AMA that we do will build and go deeper into specific functions of the different interactions of the economy, okay? So if you have questions, awesome, throw them in the chat. We will grab them as we go if they're on topic. If they're off topic for what we're covering at that moment, we'll save them for the end and then we'll still answer. So don't feel like we're going to answer your questions, we're going to answer them. We just want to keep everything on topic and moving. We also agreed that we would try to keep this thing moving pretty quick so we can get out of here within like an hour, because nobody wants to sit through a multi-hour long AMA, although Bill and I would, because we love to talk.
We do it all the time.
You guys might not want to. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and dive right in. Again, a couple things I want to say as we dive into this. Number one, this is not the end-all be-all explainer. I'm giving you guys, because you're part of the community, you're holders, we're giving you an early access look to stuff. Some are still changing and being dialed in, and we'll announce updates as they change. But this is where we're headed right now. The idea is to launch P2E as quickly as possible with the existing alpha game that we have. Instead of building out the most perfect, fun to play, awesome, exciting game and all the other cool whiz-bang stuff we want, which would mean you'd have to wait for P2E, we decided, hey, let's launch P2E now as quickly as possible. And then while P2E is functioning with the existing game, we'll build all the other stuff, all right? It is delivered to you guys faster, so you don't have to wait as long, even though the game isn't at the super, super fun, exciting level that we want to do it. We don't have the arena battles and stuff like that yet. What we do have, though, is already light years ahead of any other P2E game that's actually playable. Every other P2E game has been kind of clicky DeFi stuff. This is an actual mobile game. Do all the stuff, major things, and then obviously the aspect as well. So with that said, I'm going to kill my video. Bill, you have anything you want to say before we dive?
No, I'll just jump into straight share, I reckon.
All right, so let's do that.
That one's sharing. You guys can all see this one?
All right. Yes, we can see it.
Sweet. All right, cool. So yeah, as Tanner said, like this will just be a bit of a brief sort of overview of how we see the play to earn stuff sort of being implemented. It's a lot different from the original white paper. We've been fortunate enough to see a bunch of projects and sort of how they've worked or they haven't worked, and then not implementing the things that haven't worked and trying some new stuff out. So we do want to still be able to incorporate the scholar model, but not as we've seen it in the past. So I'm going to give a few sort of just broader topics, I guess, as we go through. And just give a bit of an overview. Guys, always ask questions in the chat. I'll leave it up open on my other. Oh, I can't see any other screen. Can I? Chat.
You should be able to pop out and pull it to a different screen.
Pop it out and put it on the screen. Yep, sweet. All right, cool. So what we've seen before, it's been basically the 2 token. Anything that's got a scholar in it has had that 2 token model. So you got the 1 token. If you think of something like SLP or Viz, that's just minted into eternity, and then we've got the governance token, which, as you've seen in those projects, hasn't really been used to govern anything. It was just a second token that has a cap supply. The problem with I'm gonna get these pop-ups everywhere. The problem with the token that is minted into Eternity is that it consistently requires new people needing to buy the token or having uses for it. We've seen in the past that most of these models that have the 2 token, it's only been breeding. That has been the burn mechanism for it. So essentially when you breed in these old models, you breed, make a new asset that just produces more of the same asset that you've just used to breed, and the cycle goes on, and all it does is compound itself like very quickly. In Axie, it was like 5-day cooldown to breed, so you had exponential growth every single 5 days on your current population. That's when I look at that, and I saw when the crack started to fault, it was when we hit a certain number of assets in the game that were able to be used by scholars. And both of those games, Axie and Pegaxy, we've seen were 99% were being used by scholars and their managers, just sort of taking the other side of it. But the actual daily users, there wasn't very many player owned in that Axie or Pegaxy. Crabada is another one where it had the 2 token model. So if there's only a certain amount of people that are willing to play, we've kind of got a capped, we've got scholars to a certain point, and then after that, if you keep breeding, who's going to use those? If there's no new players coming in, and the new players essentially only come while there's still demand from scholars. So what I want to do with this is keep a high demand for scholars. I want there to be managers getting messages every day from scholars saying, have you got a mech? Have you got a mech? And I want managers to have to say no. I don't have one. You can't get one. You can go on the waiting list. You saw that at the very start for Axie, Pegaxy, and things like that, until it hit a certain point, and the exponential growth just pushed out so far that suddenly there was like 1 million of these things, and there wasn't enough players. There wasn't enough new managers to accommodate new players, even if they were there. Sorry, Dan, you go.
Yeah, hang on, Bill, real quick. So guys, I know there's a few people on here and that will be watching this that are not as well versed in the P2E space yet, but you want to get into it. So when we say scholar, we're talking about the person renting the mech. Okay, so the person renting the rental car, right? And then when we're talking about the manager, we're talking about the rental car company or the person who owns the mech. So that's the terminology we use in play to earn. So just in case you weren't following as to what's what, scholar is the person renting the mech and getting to use it in the game in exchange for a profit split. Manager is the one that owns and controls the mech and then leases it out to the player.
Yeah, cool. Probably should have covered that. Does it automatically going in into my rambling? Sorry, dude.
No, you're good. I just realized we got some people on here that are
there might be some people that haven't been in those other things that do a lot of mechs. So yeah, if you own, say like 100 mechs, and obviously you can't have time to play all those mechs, you'll be able to rent some of those out. In the past, what used to happen is when you played, let's say Axie, you earned SLP from playing the game, and you had a split between your scholars and yourself. So if you're a manager, you would say, all right, cool, you can get half of the rewards, you can get 50%, I'll take the other 50%. But the scholar didn't have to put any money up front to buy the assets. So that's sort of how that works. Traditionally with those, what I want to do here is, we'll get to it later, but have the scholar earning system completely separate from the managers, because once you start mixing the two, if the price of the token you see in SLP and things like that have gone down significantly in the past, as that goes down, managers have to start giving a higher percentage for the same amount of money. Otherwise, the scholars aren't interested anymore. And by the time you get to the 90%, you just get complete sell pressure. So if we look at let's go over a bit of a sort of top-down view of the hybrid model. When you play, we're going to look at this as a player-owned, not looking at as a scholar. So if you own a mech and you want to play mech, you want to earn a little bit, you want to do some breeding, you want to advance in the game, this is what it's going to look like for you. We can have a look at scholars sort of later on, but for the player owner mechs, when you play, you're going to earn credits. Now, these aren't going to be a token on chain; they're going to be an in-game currency only. Does a lot of things. I think the most relevant one would be that it doesn't have its own liquidity pool. So you can't earn credits and then just sell them off into a liquidity pool. They're made there to be a utility token, so they're supposed to have utility and help you do things inside the game. And that's where we want to really be pushing people to be using these credits in the way that they were designed. So we're going to use credits for, at the start, it's going to be for breeding. It's going to be one of the 4 components of breeding. It's going to be for repair. If anyone has looked at like things like stepping, those kind of things where you had to repair, like a similar kind of thing. So you're going to have to repair your mech after you play. And in the future, there's going to be much more things for credits. Don't want to go too deep into them now, but pretty much nearly everything moving forward will have some sort of credit cost attached to it. Because the whole point of this is to try, people can earn credits and they want to use them inside the game. We don't want to be trying to use the credits to sell. You can't sell into a liquidity pool, but what you're going to be able to do is swap them for mech tokens. So what we would love to see, and this is where we're trying to push people, is that you earn, say, like 100 credits. You're going to use about 80 of those credits to burn, repair, breed, mint things in the leaderboard, and you might have a little left over. And those little bits left over is what you're going to be able to swap your credits and get some more mech tokens. Now, you might use these mech tokens for the breeding part, or you might use these mech tokens to sell and take a little bit of profit. This is going to be dripped in from our treasury, which is going to start at 20 million mech tokens at the start, and it's going to be slowly dripped into here. So this ratio of what you're going to be able to sell your credit to mech is, to mech tokens, is going to be completely reliant on how much people burn and how much is left over. So if you think of it, let's say there's 100, just for simplicity, there's 100 mech tokens up for grabs on this drip for this week. If there's 100, if there's 100 credit tokens left over, they can swap 1-to-1. If there's 1,000, you're going to get 0.1-to-1 mech. So the more people use the utility token in the way it's been designed, the better this swap ratio is. And we'll have a look at that later on. I've made a new calculator up today just to show what different things look like there.
So guys, this hybrid model, you're basically seeing elements that would have worked to help other projects that were never implemented correctly, all put together into one piece here. This keeps moving on, but one of the things that Bill can talk a little bit more about in a second is the treasury, the drips X% per month. Okay, super important. Instead of just like allowing it to be dumped and burned through and devalued quickly, we can control the growth rate of the game. You still make money, but also control the growth rate of the game and control the economy, just like the real world does, by the amount of percentage that comes out per month. And this is where we were talking about being able to have a runway that exceeds 18 months, 2 years, whatever, because we can control the growth and the drip of the actual amount of mech tokens available on the market at any one time. New mech tokens, I should say, in addition to the circulating supply. So that's a big element of it.
Yeah, I'll bring the calculator up after and we'll have a look at the treasury drip. But essentially, there's going to be a treasury which is going to be replenished through a bunch of different things. At the start, it's going to come back through breeding. And then in the future, the same way as credit's going to be used for other things. As we have more game modes, have more options, just for a random example, could be, player earns enough scrap or whatever to make a new gun that they can then sell on the marketplace. That gun might take a little bit of mech token to be able to craft. Once the player crafts that, they spend that to make the gun, which they can then sell on the marketplace. The mech from that fusing of the gun or making of the gun would then go back into the treasury to be able to be redripped back out to people. So it's essentially just recycling a lot of it back through. But as Tanner said, I think it was the last AMA where, the other company that's coming through this as well, some of that could be pushed in. He said it wouldn't exist without mech and mech wouldn't exist without it. Finding outside sources to be able to refund that treasury. So just not completely depleting this. Would love to be able to get to a position where this was actually, in the green. So it was consistently putting more money in than we're dropping out, and we can build this treasury up higher and higher. Allows us for things to be like, all right, cool, this month we're going to have a massive tournament, And there's so many other ways, advertising, people sponsoring, leaderboards. There's lots of stuff I want to do, but making sure that this treasury is replenished and then before it gets dripped out, because you can't just make a token out of thin air and completely drip it out to people, because it's eventually just going to lose its value once there's not enough new people entering the ecosystem. So at the start, we're going to be monitoring this. The drip's probably going to be fairly low. And then we'll have a look at, as we release further down the track, all the different ways that we're going to be able to replenish that treasury. Because that's basically where everyone's money's coming from, right? If we can get enough advertising in from different things, sponsors, if we get enough daily users, it becomes like an advertising, like a YouTube thing, right? If you get enough views, you can get enough money from advertising, and that money that we would get from that is what we want to give back to the players, and that's what should be funding the play to earn in the future. But a long way away still. But getting the I guess the foundations right at the start. And knowing where we need to be going in the future is pretty important. All right, I know we're already 18 minutes in, so I'm going to keep going, Tanner. We're one slide in. This is pretty much another similar kind of thing here. A player will earn, they're going to burn those credits, sell NFTs in the marketplace, whatever they have left over, they can cash out for cash out the credit to Mech. And then that goes into that swap ratio. And the treasury split comes down from that month. I might just bring up this for now. And this is kind of what it looks like. It's a bit of a confusing looking slide. But let's say we had that 20 million to start with of Mech tokens, and our treasury drip we're going to do this week is going to be 1%. This is the mint burn ratio. So people are going to earn, if you call it minting, it's not actually a token, but they're going to earn, let's say on average, 5 each. And we've got 5,000 mechs to start with at the start. And we're looking at around about 245 earned credit. We'll leave it at 250. But if we get a mint burn ratio here of 80%, which is what we've seen historically is a healthy mint burn ratio in other games before the collapse of the 2 token. If we can keep this at around here, that means people are using 80% of them credits that they get inside the game and only selling 20%, then we get this swap ratio of, let's say, 1-to-1 if we're dripping 1%. But we have these levers here to start pulling these down. So we can start at 0.5. If we think that this is, if we want to stimulate the economy, we can up this to, we could have a week with 2% drip. We can go back to 0.5. These are the kind of levers that we're going to build in at the start that we can actually make, significant changes, week to week, based on what the player base is doing. If they're, let's say they're not using the token the way they like, their ratio is going to now suck, right? It's going to be 0.16 to 1. If we see that, we want to be, making this ratio closer to 1-to-1 as we can. So we've got things we can push this to 1%. That slowly moves it up. That might mean people will start burning more. We could release more blueprints, up the costs here. We get up the cost of credit to, say, 500 credits, which will mean people will burn more. All these things, being able to change them without having to have a massive update rolled out through the game. Just want to be pushing and guiding people to be using these things in the way that we want it, so we can stabilize this economy. We don't want, this would be like a floor price of a mech as an example if these were the different values. But if we start getting $10 mech tokens, like, this is just not going to happen. I'm going to pull some levers here to make sure we don't get massive run-ups like we've seen in every other game, and then a massive dump off, because I want this for a longer term thing than just a quick little money grab.
So guys, what you're seeing here, again, just to I know there's a lot going on. He's explaining a lot, but just understand that this is a government being able to adjust and pull levers that will help stimulate or slow down the economy as needed to keep things stable. Because, as an example, as cool as it would be is if Mech tokens went to $10. If we didn't have control of everything in the game, that would mean that the Mech price would be $2,000 per Mech, which that happened to like Pegaxy and an Axie, and all of a sudden you had to have 3 Axies, and it was costing you $3,000-$4,000 to field a team, or a $2,000 Pega. New players can't come into the game and won't come into the game, and that's what starts slowing things down. So it's really dangerous to allow for that stuff, and these are the things Bill has seen and knows. So built all levers where we go not only just the drip, but we can, we incentivize players to actually burn the token and use it as a utility token. If you don't use it, then the whole gets by.
I think you're dropping, Tanner.
Playbook.
I don't know if anyone else is getting the.
Did I drop again?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of give some example on that. But anyway, Bill, go ahead and go back into your thing and.
Yeah, cool. So this is like a simpler version of the full calculator that I've sort of built out, and I've just run just a bunch of different numbers through. But yeah, the levers that we have is that we are going to be able to change this, right? So if we got $10 mech, I can just change the floor. This was 50 before, right? I made like and this was like 350. That was like a $1,700 mech as a floor price. This suddenly just drops way down, right? And we can just drop that down, make this 100. So then people can breathe more, but it's, it won't be knee-jerk reactions like that. We'll be seeing things slowly moving in a direction, and then sort of pulling levers. But the last thing I want is $2,000 mechs. Genesis mechs, fine. That's all good, because we're going to create like a whole lot of extra value for that. But like just regular mechs and things to play, like no one needs to be paying $450, $2,000 for any of these assets, because no one's going to play. We want to be able to get this into the hands of enough people, not just a few whales. But again, Genesis mechs, they should have a value, a lot higher than just the regular playing ones.
Yeah, the value we're talking about here is Gen 2s, the mechs you guys build, not your Genesis mechs.
Yeah, no, not the Genesis mechs. All right, cool. So I reckon I can talk.
Go back one for a second. Go back one.
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing, guys. Bill, do you have another slide where you're going to talk about how money's going back into the treasury from like the game and stuff? Or not?
I don't on this one.
Then we'll just talk about it here for a sec.
Yeah.
If I drop, let me know and you can take over, but I'll just kind of start it off. But guys, you can see up in the top, we got that little peach colored circle, which is the treasury 5% split. So one thing is the marketplace is going to obviously have a transaction, right? It's like the creator fee. That 5% that comes out of the marketplace, we're going to have an extra 1% come out that goes straight into the treasury. It's going to go. Bill's going to be using to time buybacks from the market to buy mech token back from the market to alleviate sell pressure. So we're going to constantly have USDT coming into the project from the marketplace, from in-game purchases, from forge purchases, other things like that that'll be rolled out. And a percentage of that USDT will not only go towards leaderboard stuff, which he's going to talk about, but also will go directly back into the treasury with the sole intention of going back into mech and being used to purchase mech from the DEX or from the market to help alleviate the sell pressure coming in. So we're not just letting the market bear it. We're trying to help support the market, buy back tokens so we can keep reissuing and cycling things around.
Yeah. And a lot of that is going to be using to add liquidity too. That's where we've seen, we've seen projects that aren't on centralized exchanges. Like my goal is to get mech to Binance. Tanner's going to hate that because it's going to cost too much money.
That's okay.
But if we say, I guess that's for another time. But if as you've seen, if you're only on a DEX and you're pretty much getting your community or other people that are DeFi to supply your liquidity, especially for a thing like this where there's going to be a lot of buy and sell pressure at different times, it's going to be different. We've seen tokens that don't have very much liquidity, have a huge amount of swings just because if people want to buy a reasonable amount of the token, it pushes it like 4 or 5%. So stacking these liquidity pools is going to be great for us as a team. So we're going to use some of this, as Tanner said, it's like, I think at the moment I'm looking at about 1% from marketplace fees in US dollars. We'll buy half of the Mech tokens, and then we'll supply both sides to the liquidity pool with that. So the more active the marketplace, obviously that's my job to make that active, because that's where the team will make money. As well as making the team money, a percentage of that, so like $1 or
goes into
a 1% or so boosts liquidity, which just makes it makes Mech token a lot more stable. But also, by providing like so much liquidity from the team, we'll also earn on fees, right? And that's just more money that we can either put back into the treasury or wherever. So that's one of the.
There's a lot more incentive here, guys, to also build, make, and sell NFTs. It's not just about rentals and scholars. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for you guys to profit directly from the sale of NFT. Because the other thing is you earn Mech token and you sell it. Your whole goal is to get USD, USDC, USDT, some kind of currency like that, right? So, but if you sell the NFT directly, you get straight into the currency you want without any kind of exchange. And there's NFTs that you're going to be on the market that are going to be very in demand by other players, by other managers, by things like that. So you're going to have opportunities to sell those kinds of things as additional income in addition to just playing the game. Now, Jim asked a question. Once the lever is pulled, what's the expected time frame to see the results? That depends on specifically what we do, but most, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to see over the next week.
Yep. So pretty much, I probably should have brought that slide in somewhere. So let me just actually, I'll keep going, and then I'll try and find that. I just brought the second one of these up. So where is it? Let me bring one of these across in.
Ideal burn ratio of 80-20, could that be preset as a limitation at early stages? We could conceive do that, or just put limitations on what you can or can't do. Ideally, we don't want to, because that's more fixing and less, straight up, I guess. But yes, we can put some controls in place to limit that. But another piece of that is, if we see the burn rate go down, we'll just limit the amount of Mech token that gets dripped out to make up the difference and help stabilize it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's punishing for the community as a whole here if no one burns. So like if the mint burn ratio goes down to like 50%, everyone's swap ratio goes down. So people can still extract their money, but they can only extract whatever we're putting in, right, from the drip. So the most that can be extracted in a 1 week period is the percentage that I'm putting in from the drip. At this point, it's 25,000 Mech tokens. If people aren't, you can go to that. If we up it to 1%, it's 50,000. So this is the most that can be extracted any week. We've got how many new mechs. So we're going to drip out this blueprint. This is the next slide I'll go into in a sec. Is controlling the population rate. So I would expect that all of these blueprints, there'll be, if there's 250 available in that week, I'm expecting 250 breeds to happen. I'm going to keep that low enough that everyone wants to breed. If we start seeing blueprints just sitting around not getting used, or the marketplace similar to that, I'm probably going to cut that drip percentage down to 10%. We don't want to be flooding the market and having more supply than we've got demand to actually breed. Because what we want to do, I'll try and go through it simply, but it's you trying to clean up the circulating supply, right, of this credit. And we're looking at 50 to 75% is where I want to be using how much is floating around to clean up through the breeding of those. So the amount of credit it's going to cost to breed is going to change possibly week to week, depending on what the mint burn ratio looks like. If it sits at 80%, 75, 70 each week, there's not going to be too much change of the price, but we're going to have it put in place that we can change the amount of Mech credit that it will cost for a Mech over time. USD and blueprints are probably going to stay the same.
Two things. One, all these stats that are relevant to like what's the ratio, what's the price, what's this, that will all be calculated, which Bill's going to talk about, and it will be published weekly for you guys, so you know what you're getting into, what the numbers are going to be for that next week. It's not going to be hidden or anything. You'll know exactly what the numbers are. But what is a blueprint? Great question. If you haven't followed along, blueprints are going to be the items NFT that you must have. It's a burnable item, and you're required to have a blueprint in order to forge a new mech. So since there's no breeding, you actually have to have a blueprint. Okay, so you use a blueprint along with these other items, and the blueprint will be consumed in the making of the new mech along with the other consumables.
Yep. So that's kind of what this will be here for a breed. So we're going to have credit tokens, which is going to control that mint burn. The mech tokens, some of this is going to get burnt, which makes mech deflationary. And then USD, we're going to use that in several different ways when we get that USD in. Some of it's going to be for liquidity, buybacks, scholars, team profits. And then blueprint is going to be, if you can look at it as an NFT, we're working here with Jarvis at the moment, trying to figure out how many things we can keep off chain so everyone's not clicking 1,000 times through their MetaMask to be able to do things. And I think we've figured out a way, but we haven't quite got there yet. Where it would only be sort of one transaction. So blueprints, you'll be able to earn and then sell on the marketplace peer-to-peer. You'll also be able to buy them from the in-game store just for USD as well. And there'll be a certain percentage split between the two every week.
Now, this is another thing where the hybrid model has come into play. We've looked at breeding through other games and where it falls off. And by making this multi-component breeding functionality where there's 4 different elements, that gives us 4 different levers in the economy, depending on what the specific issue is we're trying to combat, whether it be deflationary or inflationary. We can implement or impact just one specific area to control it. The other thing is getting a direct USDT influx for the breed, because it obviously costs you money in tokens or whatever. We're going to make the token cost less so that there's still, and then average it all out. But that gives a direct infusion of cash back into the project, which then can go into liquidity, into scholar leaderboards, and into game function. So we're actually really excited about how the forward breeding functionality works, because it solves a lot of the issues and gives us a lot of control over making sure things stay stable, profitable for everybody.
Yeah, and it gives like I remember when I first showed this to Tanner, and he was like, "Why is there so many things on the screen?" He's like, "Is that too many?" I'm like, "I don't know. We'll find out." But the more we delved into it and talked about it, and I've been chatting, it's like all these are very separate things. We've never seen a breeding with a USD component before. It's always been tied to the 2-token model, right? So it's always been tied to the thing that's got an unlimited supply, which keeps tanking in value. And it's also, and then once that tanks, the governance token normally tanks with it. So they're the only 2 things we've seen before. Having a USD gives that sort of baseline to help with floor prices. I like being able to change the amount of mech and definitely changing the amount of credit. So as we get further along, the at the start, the amount of credit it's going to cost is probably going to be more, and it's going to go down in the future because we're going to have more uses for credit as we go ahead. And blueprints, when we get into the scholar earning part, this is going to be a major part of the scholar earning where they can earn, and then they'll be able to sell these peer-to-peer. We're going to sell them on the in-game store as well. And I expect scholars to undercut that store the second that they get their blueprints, but that's just how it is. But once all those undercut ones are gone, then there'll be that sort of baseline price from the store. So if people want to breed and it's profitable to breed, I'll be keeping an eye on that as well. They're going to buy the blueprints from the store if they need to breed. Now,
one other thing that I had someone mention to me when I was talking about this was like, well, it's going to cost me $25 to breed. I was like, well, actually, it's going to cost you more than that because you have to spend mech token and credits and the blueprint and all that. But if you've ever done any of these other games when you're breeding, you may have your 1 token that you've earned, assuming that you earned enough of it. But to get enough of the other token or the tokens, if you didn't have enough, you had to go to the market and buy it and then use it. So you're still spending money to breed. in just in our case, we're being very direct about it, and we're splitting it up so that it's not creating more sell pressure and hurting the token or the economy, actually in such a way that you're still spending actually less than what you would on another game. But at the same time, our spending is directly impacted back into the game in an intelligent and helpful way through the USDT injection, if that makes sense, guys.
Yeah. And if you're like a player owner, which I'm trying to target everything towards, right? You need credit, Mech, USD, and a blueprint. When you're playing, you're going to earn those credits. So that's your credit sorted. For this part, for the other part of the breed, you're going to need Mech tokens. You can swap some of these credits for Mech, and you can use those Mech for your breed. If you place okay on the leaderboard, you're going to earn a blueprint. So the last thing you need is USDT. Maybe the amount of Mech that you sell here, you're going to get enough to sell $25 worth of USDT to then put back in, and then you'll be able to do it. So you could do this whole thing without actually putting any more money in, but it's going to be a lot of work and effort. And I know there's going to be players that do that, and they're probably going to do quite well. There's going to be managers who just want to rent out to a bunch of scholars, and they're going to have to figure out their own way of doing this. But this loop can be just recycled completely through play by yourself in the game as well. Let me
go back to the picture one, the one with the strongholds.
Yep. Oh, this one. Yep.
Yeah. So, guys, the next piece that's coming up, obviously, in order to get into the breeding, we got to get to the next level of NFTs. So, the next NFT you guys are aware of that's coming out is a stronghold. Now, remember, if you want to Genesis Mech, you get to mint a free stronghold just for the cost of gas. And we're going to be minting on Polygon. So the cost of gas is going to pennies. So you're going to be able to get your stronghold basically for free. And the stronghold here you see is the level 1 stronghold. It has 3 expansions. If you want to learn more about the expansion pads, watch the other AMA or look at the announcements that I posted in Discord. But there's different amounts of expansion pads that you can upgrade to between 3 and 7. The expansion pads are how you add additional functionality to your base and to the game. So you build different buildings that do different things on the expansion pad. So what you see right next to the stronghold here is the forge. Now, a forge is an expansion module that has to be built on an expansion pad. And when you when you build a forge onto your base, onto your stronghold, and in the game, it will show up, that forge will show up on taking up one of those pads once you've installed it. That will unlock your ability to breed. That next screen, or forge, that next screen that he was showing you, where it shows the 4 items and the forge button, you won't be able to see that or access that until you have a forge installed in your base. When you have a forge, which is also an NFT, that unlocks that functionality. When it comes time to build strongholds or be able to create new strongholds in the game, you'll have to yard as an expansion module. So these are additional NFTs that expand the functionality of the game and allow you to do different things. So the strongholds you're going to be able to mint for free. We will be making forges available in the future before the game goes live for you guys. They'll be available for sale. Genesis Mech holders will obviously get a discount before we kick things off, just because we love you guys. But again, as the game grows, the expansion buildings like forges, construction yards, leasing offices, all these different ones that we're going to be launching, those will all be sold for USDT and can be resold on the marketplace. But a percentage of those sales will also go liquidity and buyback, different things like that, to leaderboard sales or leaderboard prizes, all to help keep the flow of the game going. So again, right away, if you want to be able to create mechs, you're going to have a stronghold. You're going to have a forge, and those two together. And another thing we're doing, this was Bill's idea, I think. I don't remember now. We've talked about so much, but I'm going to give him credit for it. Was that Genesis Mech? If you want to be able to breed initially for the first phase, you must also have a Genesis Mech in your wallet. So if you're a new player that comes in, you buy a stronghold and a forge, but you don't have a Genesis Mech, then you won't be able to forge. You won't be able to do mechs. So you'll have to buy a Genesis Mech to market. So it's going to create an extra demand on the Genesis Mechs to increase the prices right away. Okay, so that's one extra thing. In the future, that'll go away. Anybody will be able to breed, assuming they have the right components. But initially, we only want Genesis mech holders to be able to breed, and they're the ones that are going to get to sell the mechs to the new players on the market.
Yeah, and like with this as well, it's like this is going to be the I want to be slowly, kind of like a soft launch, right? So we can control, we've now controlled that you have to have a Genesis mech. So they're the only ones that are going to be breeding, which is everybody in this call, everyone that is around, anyone that wins one from the leaderboard, that's going to make the leaderboard prizes and things like that like so much more valuable. But slowing that and then being able to control the drip like we saw before of blueprints. So like we can control, like, we can make this as slow growth as possible.
As we need to. We can even control the amount of forges for sale.
Or we can or we can push it. We can do it either way. But being able to slow it and not let it just run rampant like we've seen with everything else is probably the biggest mistake we've seen, and one that we can control with these. And it does give all the benefit to the Genesis holders as well through this. So with the staking, we're going to look at credits being given out. And as we saw before, it's going to cost a certain amount of credits to breed. And we're going to make sure there's enough credits that everyone that holds a Genesis mech, you're going to get your free stronghold. You're going to have to buy one of these. Tannis just gave you a discount for it. But you also get credits. And then we're looking at that for the first lot, you'll be able to get a free breed just by holding the Genesis mech. So like just by holding the Genesis mech, you get a drone. Yeah, like you get a drone for future use. You get the stronghold, you get the forge for a discount, you get enough credits to be able to do your first breed. Just need the other components like the USDT and things like that. But that gets you set up to at least have one Gen 2 mech. You could sell that across, you could rent it out to a scholar, you could play two. And that's for each of your Genesis mechs. So Pathos is just licking his lips, I'm sure. I keep watching OpenSea.
Yeah, he's like, how can I get another
every bit of floor sweeping? Oh, he's got his name in there as well. And I'm just like, oh man, this dude's gonna have so much stuff. Yeah, so that's this part here. So that's what the staking rewards we're looking at. We make sure that everyone has enough credit to breed. We don't want you to have less credit and then have nothing to do with it. At least be able to get one breed out, plus all the extra benefits.
And we're talking about rewards, guys. This is all for the backdated, automatically awarded staking rewards that we're giving all the Genesis holders, since our lawyers weren't willing to let us actually launch traditional staking. We're going to backdate everybody, credit them, and give them the in-game rewards as their staking reward, which it was always going to be credits. But now we're just decided, hey, we're going to make sure everybody's going to get enough to be able to at least make their own mech. So they get a new mech. Yeah. Basically, increase your NFT. You're going to get a free NFT out of staking rewards. And this is the way that we can take your staking rewards, which were always going to be in-game tokens and not monetizable, actually make it into a way that you guys can make some money off those staking rewards by creating a mech and then selling or renting that. So that's how we're bending the rules and getting around things for you guys, because we want you guys to actually make some money off of this stuff right away, in addition to the earnings. So obviously you can use your credits for whatever you want, but that's our intention in giving you that lump sum of staking rewards that's enough to create a mech.
Yeah, I mean, like if everyone decides to just, like we're going to have that first week drip and we're going to have a bunch of credits. So the earn credits isn't going to be this. It's going to be all the staking rewards in one hit. If everyone wants to sell it, everyone's ratio is going to be pathetic. So you're much better off breeding. Like this is the way that we're trying to push people into breeding, right? So like if we gave out whatever it is for like 400 by 5,000, a couple of million. Credit tokens, but we've only got 100, but we've only got 50,000 mech tokens. That ratio is going to be bad. So we're pushing everyone from the start down the path of using a utility token for what it's supposed to be used for, not just for cashing out and dumping on the market.
That's exactly what he just said there. I can't emphasize enough about true play to earn, never having a chance at winning. The idea should be use the utility token for what the purpose as an actual utility. People monetize and make money utility token. That doesn't work. That's not sustainable. That's why it's a utility token. Provide utility in the environment that it's used in.
Yeah.
Monetization comes from other aspects. That's why we're create an NFT. Then that NFT can go be sold or rented out or whatever, and it can make you money. but you're not, the idea is that you use the game the way it's supposed to be played and not try to rape it, and everybody wins. And that's the whole culture, the training. Bill and I have already talked about, we're going to provide training to scholars, that video training that you can use to train your scholars to understand, hey, this is the way the game is supposed to be worked. This is how you win. This is how everybody wins. Because no other game has ever done that. And scholars don't know any better. They're going to think, oh, this is the way I'm going to make my money. I got to do this. But if they realize how the game is set up and how it's structured and how the economy works, and we'll make it, engaging kind of training, we can actually make this sustainable for a very long period of time and then grow with it.
Cool. I'm looking at the time now, and I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to ramble for ages. I'm going to try and get through a bit of this, and we'll get to a couple of quick questions. At the end, we're going to keep this as close to an hour as possible. This is just, I didn't add this one in because looking at this thing, everyone's just like, what the fuck is this? What is this? But basically what's going to happen every Monday. So we're going to have this drip come in through the treasury for this 1 week, right? So we know we're going to have this week's treasury reward is going to be 50,000 Mech tokens if we're doing 1%, and the treasury total is 2 million. So we know how much it is. We're going to take a snapshot on Monday, and it's going to be the global reset time, which is about 48 minutes ago, here where the daily candle clicks over. And pretty much every other game has their daily reset at like 11 a.m. my time in Australia on the Monday. At that time, we're going to have a 4-hour sort of pause on all things market, or not like peer-to-peer, but just all things with the anything with the credit token. So we can take the snapshot. We're going to know how much circulating supply of credit is. So let's say we had 1 million, people have burnt 800,000. There's 200,000 credit sitting here circulating, or in this case, there's 50,000 credit. We know how much we're dripping in from the treasury. So then we can easily create that ratio. And then we're going to have like a 4-hour pause window, just get some human eyes to double check everything as well. In that time, we can also adjust breeding costs for credit or mech and things like that. And then there's going to be a 20-hour period up until the next snapshot day, where there's going to be a pool of mech tokens, and people will be able to cash out if they want and swap their credit for mech. So if there's only 10,000 credit tokens left over, and there's 10,000 mech tokens being dripped in, everyone can get a 1-to-1. Any that aren't, say, if only half the people take advantage of that in that 24-hour period, and some people just want to be saving some more credit because next week they want to use that credit to breed, then that extra mech just gets rolled back into the following week. So it's a rolling amount. So if people don't take advantage and cash out all the credit to mech, then it rolls over to the next week. But if everyone does, we basically get a fresh reset of credit every single week. So if everyone cashes this out to mech tokens, we start the next week with 0 credit, which we're never going to do. So there's always going to be something rolling across. But that gives a reset every week, rather than just having a consistent sell pressure and downturn and this amount piling up. It's either going to get burnt or through breeding, or it's going to get burnt by exchanging it for mech tokens, and we basically start again every week. Does that make sense? I didn't want to bring this slide in because it looks a bit of a nightmare to start with, and want to make a nice, easy way to explain this later on. Cool. I'm going to keep heading on, and we're going to get to the hyperinflation with projects with scholars. This is where I was talking about before, and this is why we're going to control the drip through blueprints. All right. So when assets can be bred with short cooldowns, uncontrolled, that just produces more assets that can produce more assets, which produces more assets. So this is the Ponzi scheme that we've basically seen in a lot of play to earn that have the 2 token. There's nothing they could do about it. It leads to this, right? It leads to an initial and then a massive run up and then just eventual death over here. Because if we start day 1 with 10,000 assets, and they traditionally you'd have to have 1 male, 1 female, or 2 of the same thing. They can breed 5k new ones. So then after the first lot of cooldowns, 15k assets can produce 75. It's only, 3 cooldown periods, and you're already at 5 times the initial player base, right? So we get like 5,000 50,000, assets in a matter of like, 3 to 4 cooldowns. And that's if everyone breeds them all on cooldown. Doesn't quite happen, but you can see how quickly that the assets just really ramp up, right? And this is when the mint burn ratio, I can probably bring, everyone knows what that mint burn ratio, everyone knows what that chart is. The mint burn ratio, it's all good, right? And then as soon as this starts dipping down here, you can see the mint burn dies. That's when you start seeing some pretty brutal moves in the market. So we've seen this happen time and time again. And when it goes unchecked, people will just continuously breed, right? Everyone's breeding on cooldown. It's that compound interest effect on assets that just produce more of the same thing. That just the only thing you can do with what they produce is make more of the same thing. It is that pyramid scheme, right? Once all the demand leaves for this, then there's no new demand coming in. So there's no, like, you need a certain amount of managers or a certain amount of people wanting to play. When it goes unchecked, it rises so quickly. Like, let's say these cooldowns, if we're looking at Axie for these cooldowns, this was like 5 days, right? So that's like 15, 20 days. You can't get 5x your daily average users in like half a month. It's just not possible, right? Even if your game is the most popular thing ever, it can't sustain that kind of compound interest on assets and the need for new players. And that's what we've seen. So if we're looking at this with a 20% growth, it's going to take 10 weeks to even get to 50K, which is your 5x in there. And we're looking at like under a month, 2 weeks before. We can also change this, right? So if this is growing too fast and no demand, we're going to kill this down. If there's way more demand than we can do, and the prices of mechs start going through the roof because everyone wants to get in, but no one can get it because we don't have enough new mechs, we can always up this as well to try and not let that bubble even start forming. I want to see, like, we'll do another AMA for mech token in the future, but it's going to be deflationary. It's going to have a bunch of uses inside. I wanted to have advertisers have to buy the mech token to be able to pay us in that, which would go through a treasury. I got so many good ideas for the token itself, but I don't want it to go, they open at like, 50 cents, a dollar, whatever, and then go to like $40 because it's just not possibly sustainable. What I want for this is a slow growth. If anyone's had a look at the Sunflower Land chart, it's fantastic. Through the bear market, it's done a very slow 100% in the last like 8 months. That's the kind of growth that I want. Slow, no massive spikes, no bubbles, no, you see that regular Wall Street bubble chart. I don't want any of that don't want any of that coming in here.
Guys, while some of that may seem like, well, that doesn't sound very good. Remember, this is not a currency token that's like Bitcoin or Ethereum that's being traded like this. This is a game token that we want steady, slow growth and it to hold its value long term. If it's a 1-to-1 and you can trade and you can make money on it every day, it's consistent. But if it yo-yos up and down, yeah, you might have one day where it pays out at $10 per, but the next day it's at 50 cents. You don't want that. We'd rather it just stay slow growth and consistently climbing at a nice even pace and stay stable. But don't think of the mech token the same way you think of like ETH or BTC. Just because the shard did go crazy, that wasn't necessarily a good thing for the longevity of the game.
Yeah, it's if it has anything to do, which it does here, and it doesn't everything with the price of an actual NFT itself. So it is a component of the NFT. We can always drop that by a lot, but that does cause a lot of other problems as well. But yeah, it just needs to not be just go out of control. And I don't know why other projects haven't put levers in to stop that, right? Because if it goes out of control for a month and it goes crazy and they get a bunch of sales through their marketplace, that's cool. They made a bunch of money. But how much are they making now per day through their marketplace? All the daily users are gone. Like, there's no sustainability, and those games there's just no way for them to come back. Because they need so much more volume and decent prices of NFTs. And that's like, basically that's my job, is to make sure that there's enough volume coming through the marketplace and the NFT prices aren't too high, aren't too low. They're just an okay price. So the amount of the 5% fee that's running through the marketplace in volume is enough to sustain, to keep building and making new game modes and keep the game going. Like, that's basically all I have to do. And we're trying to build all the levers in as well as we can to try and make that happen. I'm just cautious of the time here as well. We are getting pretty closely to the 1 hour point. So yeah, we can cool off economy by adding blueprint drops, restrict to speed up the economy. There's staying at the point where there's more demand than supply available for managers. So that's a scholar thing I was talking about before, where I want scholars to be messaging managers saying, hey, can I get a scholarship? Be like, hey, there's 10 people on the list already. We're waiting for the next release of blueprints so we can do some breeding to be able to get some more people into the game. There's enough managers, there's enough players, and if the game becomes popular enough, there's going to be enough demand, right? If we can get 6 months in and a token that doesn't collapse like everything else has, there's going to be a lot of buys. The number that's normally when it starts to go a bit shaky from the 2 token model has been in the hundreds of thousands of users before the demand runs out. People are going to be a lot more cautious now because they've seen what happens in a lot of P2E, and a lot of people probably won't touch things again. So the games that have come before us, a lot of them have probably burnt a lot of the money that we would have been trying to attract. However, again, if we can get something that is just a slow growth over 6 to 9 months, they might be like, hey, this, I am going to jump in now. I probably should jump in earlier. Gen 2 mechs. I think we briefly talked about this, Tanner, at one point. But Gen 2 mechs, and so anything apart from a Genesis mech at some point will have a limited lifespan for earning in P2E. Think of a scrapyard. Haven't gone through that completely yet. It's not going to be for a while. But one of the benefits of having the Genesis is that it's not going to, its batteries aren't going to run out, or have we pitch it. But yeah, that's going to be one of the extra bonuses. But having a limited life cycle for earning in play to earn, or that it has to be there. Otherwise, if you get to here and then you've got a slow 10% decay back on this as well, your decay can sort of match the new blueprints, and you can sort of sit steady, or you can start decreasing numbers if there's lower daily average users. But that's all things that you can do once you have enough data over 6 to 9 months of what that daily average user looks like, what the demand is for new mechs. But yeah, killing them at some point is going to be a thing. But not just killing him and that's it. Like having the scrap then usable to then just off the top of my head, recycle. Recycle to a new mech, or to a another one of these things that you can put in the pads. A different there's so many things. Haven't got started to it, so I'll stop talking about it. And then having a look at the idea of the X number of mechs in population, you can change the breed cost. And that's one I was thinking about today, where we're looking at changing them. But I've been watching what they're going to be doing with like Sunflower Land, Honeyland. I read their 108-page mechanisms, whatever it is, thing the other day. And with like it's kind of similar to like a halving event, but like once we hit milestones, maybe like it's like, 20K, 30K, 50K. The USD portion changes, or or something else changes within here that was pretty static before, just to keep an eye on this population control. We just don't want this to run too crazy. All right, probably going to wait for this for next time. It's already hit an hour. We'll jump a quick look into scholar earning before we go into any quick questions, and we'll look at the ROI path here next time. But basically, it used to be very linear. You would make an Axie. The Axie would make 100 SLP per day, which was like $1. It actually cost you 100. It's like 100 days ROI, and it was very easy to work out. There was nothing else that you needed to look at. It was like, this is how much I could make, and there we want to make this very, very dynamic, and it already is, because the amount that you could cash out here into Mech to take straight pure profit into a token is completely dependent on the choice of everybody else in the economy. If let's say everyone burnt and you're the one that didn't burn, you're getting a wild ratio for your thing. But then if everyone's like, oh, that was awesome, like you haven't got a ratio, the next week, no one burns because they saw the good ratio last week, and you're suddenly getting, then everyone gets screwed. So it is a community, I guess, for now. I've got other ideas in the future, but I guess all I can say is that, you know, if you're one of the people who are burning most of it and using your utility token the way it's supposed to be good, that could be a good thing for you in the future too. All right. So scholar earning, are we good, Tanner? Going to go like 5 minutes on scholars. Tanner, you still there? Can you guys still hear me? Just someone hit up in the chat. Yep, cool. All right, cool. Tanner's on here. All right. I think Tanner bowed out at 12. All right. So scholar earning, it's going to be separate as possible from the ecosystem of credit points. Right? As we talked about before, scholars used to just earn a percentage of the same thing that managers earn. So then there was a consistent sell pressure and something that you had to combat as a manager, because the scholars are always selling the same things that you're trying to sell. Sometimes you're not going to sell them, and the scholars just sell all of them, and then you get a worse price. We've got the ability to split off scholars a percentage of credits they earn, but it's possibly going to be capped. So the split would be like, let's say you can earn 10 credits a day from your mech on average, and you're going to give your scholar 10%. That means a scholar is going to get like 1 credit per day. So then they can, that 1 credit is basically just never going to be burnt. And that's going to be, at the start, it's not going to be, but that's going to basically be sell pressure, right? So that's going to be an automatic 10%. So we're never going to go, it's going to test me now. Yeah, make that 90%, whatever 90% of 250 is. So that's the automatic sell pressure. So we're already going to have that before other people want to sort of take out. So we're trying to limit that as much as possible. Everyone would have seen it in Pegaxy at the start. Everyone was getting like scholars getting 40%, and they're making like $120 a day to click a couple of buttons. Till people realized, and they started giving them 1%, and they were still happy to race. And then, so as a lowest amount, we want to see the scholars earning from leaderboards, which is going to bring better players into the game as well. So leaderboard prizes are going to include USDT, a portion from the breeding fees, right? So if it's $25 from the breeding fees, going to try and split off at this stage, about $12.50, will go directly into the leaderboards for scholars, right? So if we got, let's say, even at the first week, we're dripping to, what are we dripping from the breeds? 250 by... So there's already like $3,000 in the scholars pool to be able to earn. That's just the USDT portion. All right, that's more than enough as a prize pool for people who have not, invested actual dollars into the game. This is a free to play thing. They're basically going to get that chance at that 3K. And I've seen a few other projects where there hasn't been any initial investment to be able to get in for much lower prize pools. On top of that, there's going to be Genesis mechs. I know Tanner's got some that are left over just sitting there, so we're going to utilize some of these as well. This will be really popular at the very start when, for the first couple of leaderboards where you need a Genesis mech to be able to continue to breed. People are going to be wanting to try and win these. We're going to throw some Gen 2, Gen 3 mechs, etc. XP multipliers, the generators, forges, and other NFTs for slotting in the strongholds. So they're the other ones that Tanner was talking about, like the leasing and other things that he's planning. Strongholds themselves, we'll be able to mint some of them and then put them up for leaderboard prizes, tokens, and other NFTs from sponsored leaderboards. So let's say there was another project that they've got a token. I don't know what else am I in at the moment. Wizardia, probably Let's say they wanted to do some sort of collaboration. They sponsor the leaderboard. Be like, cool. That's like, we'll get, X amount of dollars from them. And they can throw in some NFTs that they can chuck into leaderboards as well. Metal, which is going to be the other in-game currency, and blueprints as well. So a percentage of the blueprints, if we're dripping, say 20%, which we looked at before was about 250 from week 1, we might have 50 or 100 blueprints here, and then the other ones being sold in the shop. Already know that the people who own these blueprints will probably undercut the shop, but we'll just hope there's enough demand and we'll move from there. So you can see very generous prize pool for scholars, which is going to have a huge demand for managers. Pathos, loving this already. And the reason is to push people to have more player-owned mechs. So we don't want 99% of the population in game just being scholars and the rest being managers. We want to have people that own mechs and play themselves, because if you can win all these awesome prizes in here, if you're good enough, there's going to be some serious potential earning, because you'll be able to sell blueprints, strongholds, forges. You can sell all these things in the secondary market. And from a company standpoint, this is how we make money. We make money from sales in the marketplace. So I'm going to give enough of these out to stimulate enough sales from there so the team makes money. And not only do we make money from that, that also bolsters the liquidity pool with that extra percent coming from there. So instead of it being, I guess we can probably wrap this up at the end now, and instead of pushing towards just tokens, people cashing out and then looking at their ROI through how many tokens can I make, it's going to be pushed towards a lot more, good gameplay, topping leaderboards, and being able to sell these in the secondary marketplace, because as a team, it doesn't really cost us heaps of money to be able to mint some of these things, to be able to put up for the leaderboard, but we do make money in our end, so that's good for everyone, while bolstering up a liquidity pool for the people that do want to jump and cash out as well.
Now, two other things on this, guys, just for a different perspective. If you think of scholars are the biggest drain on any economy, because they don't do, like managers, they breed, they make, they create, help keep the economy going. Scholars do nothing but tank it, because all they do is take what they make and sell. Their whole goal is to get USDT. That's all they want. So by switching to a leaderboard model and a smaller credit model, the leaderboards give them exactly what they want. The prizes are paid out in USDT. So there's no sell pressure on the token, or they get NFTs that they can then sell for USDT. Again, no sell pressure on the market at all. And so this gives the scholars what they want, allows them to make their money without creating any pressure on the Mech token.
Yeah, it just protects the Mech token from the consistent sell pressure from scholars. And like as Dennis said, like it's a sink. It's a drain. Whatever percentage scholars are extracting from there, they are going to sell, and it's going to be something that you're going to have to combat. Which is fine. Like I think the way that that we phrased it, it sounds like a bad thing, but like that's what the scholars are doing. Like a lot of the scholars it's just from Philippines. Straight up honest, it's what they do. It's just part of what this is. If you're going to have a scholarship model inside the game, you just have to know that this is what's going to happen, and it's fine. Like that's what they're doing, and managers want scholars to be able to play, because they can't play their 500 mechs in one day. And the other thing from this with the leaderboards, we're going to allow scholars to have multiple mechs that they can play, but only their best score will count for the leaderboard. So they might be able to have 3 mechs, but it's their best score from those 3 mechs. So if you got, say, 10,000 mechs, or let's say 10,000 mechs active, but a bunch of those people are playing like 3, and owner players can play as many as they like for the leaderboard. It's gonna, instead of there being 10,000 possible spots on the leaderboard, it's going to shrink that down to 3,000, 4,000 different spots on the leaderboard. So you have a better chance of actually landing on the leaderboard and winning something from there.
Leaderboard is not like a 10, 1, 2, 3 leaderboard. It's a leaderboard will pay out 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 places as needed based on the prize pool. Yeah.
And like the lower parts might not be a huge amount, but it's going to reward better skilled players. And as we as we move forward, and it does come out of that the version of the game at the moment, and there's different things we can add in. It is going to open up the opportunities for different things like weapons. The shield generator is already probably going to be good from the start, but there's going to be so many more things that we can add in. And then everything that we add in, also, if it's an in-game item and useful inside the game, it'll be able to be added to the leaderboard. So keeping it separate from basically keeping scholars away from Mech token.
But still giving them the money that they need to want to play the game, because obviously they're using it to supplement their income, which is great. It's totally fine. It's an awesome model.
Yeah.
But we have to make sure we do it in such a way that it doesn't drain the economy and hurt the game that's basically feeding them. So you can't let them bite the hand that feeds them.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's why we've introduced the $25 USDT as part of the breeding. That hasn't been there before. So scholars are always taking from eating from the same pool as managers. And that gets drained pretty quick.
Since everybody on here is pretty much a manager, Bill pointed out as well, because he's obviously one of the biggest managers in some of the other projects as well, that a secondary benefit to managers of putting scholars into leaderboard prizes is the scholars are going to win blueprints. They're going to win strongholds. They're going to win all these NFTs that they're going to sell on the marketplace. And like he said, they're going to undercut each other. They're going to try to keep lowering the price. So managers are going to be able to scoop up blueprints and other things off the marketplace, essentially for cheaper than games. That's a byproduct, not necessarily an intended.
It's just what's going to happen.
On the background, Bill's sitting there going,
it's kind of part of the game. It's part of the game that a manager would have to think. And I'll probably do some more calls for like manager stuff as well, and we'll be able to go through different stuff in the Discord and things like that. But that's pretty much it for me, man. I reckon we've only gone 15 minutes over. I could keep talking for ages.
Yeah, no, I think that was good, guys. Do you have any specific question you'd like us?
I'm just going to
wrap up.
I'm just going to scroll up through the chat, see if I can see anything. Yeah, I think you were answering.
I think we answered most of them, but we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. But if you have a last minute question you'd like to go ahead and get answered, go ahead and ask it. Otherwise, we can always talk about it in the Discord. That's totally fine. I'll get this rendered and uploaded to YouTube. Oh, wow. Look at this.
Hey, Jarvis.
Oh, Jarvis. Oh, Jarvis is on here. Cool. He did say he was going to listen, but I forgot that he was going to hop on.
Yeah, that's pretty much a sweet.
That's pretty much, yep. You're right.
Great. Wrap up there, Jarvis.
What else, guys? Any other questions? Again, totally cool if you don't, because we are going to be hanging out in the Discord. Obviously, you've got the P2E Economy Discord channel now where you can talk.
We can. I'll start putting Bill. A few things in there as well. I could even load some of these slides and stuff in there too. We could just talk about some, each thing is a separate, because like breeding separate than marketplace, and then from earning, I guess. And then we're going to have, I'll get that done over the weekend. I'll set up a few different topics.
Perfect. Eric says, is there going to be a way to export info from the game to a spreadsheet for tax purposes? Yeah, Eric, we'll have to see how all that breaks down, but making a CSV dump or something like that of your data should not be a problem. That's pretty simple database stuff, but I don't want to say that. But
Eric, says, go hit up. And is it NFT Dave? He would do Josh's stuff, I guess. He is fantastic.
Okay.
For US based people, he does Clear Blues as well. Just as an off-topic thing, I don't get any money for for Dave starting there. I've spoken to him, but all I hear is good things about. Hit up NFT Dave. So hit Josh up in the Discord. He knows some real good stuff for US tax purposes.
So will leaderboard only be rated by high score, or will it include amount of game time for diehard players? We're going to have a variety of different leaderboards. We're not exactly sure on all the different types yet. High score for the week or before it resets, whatever, that'll be one. But yeah, we could do game time ones. We could do specific boards for specific types of mechs or all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and I think as game modes change as well, and when we start looking at other ways to do it, so I won't go into it. But what I would love to see, I think this is where Surrender's going, is that I love playing Lost Relics, and that game is a grind, like an absolute grind. And I love that it's a massive grind that you don't really get anywhere, but you kind of do. I would love to have something like similar to that, but yeah, I think as you've said, Tanner, before, like this is going to be like a quick, fun toilet game. It's not going to be something. I don't want scholars sitting there for 7 hours clicking things to try and make some money and things like that. But I would love some sort of mode in the future where it was like the grind of time pays off. Like that's essentially where I saw Web3 gaming going to start with. It was just like the NFTs hold the value of the time that you put into the game, and that holds their value, which is pretty much what Lost Relics does as well. So, yeah, I can't compete with 12-year-olds either. It's really good. I can't play first-person shooters with kids. Like they just absolutely just. I'm too old for that. I don't have the reflexes anymore. Mechs lose value the more they breed, max number they can. So Nuti, when at this stage, no, it's going to be we've seen before with where the breeding just got left sort of unchecked. They had their caps, but each new one could breed as many times as it wanted. But we don't need any of those restrictions in because we control the breed with the blueprint by having this as something that we need, and that we control the number of this sort of dripping out each week, and we can control the population. There's no need to have any cap on how many times things can breed. There will be a 24-hour cooldown, right, Tanner? As you breed
on the forge.
On the forge, there'll be a 24-hour cooldown when you do forge it before the new one can be played. That'll be the building time of it.
So if you click the forge button, it's going to take the forge 24 hours to set out your next mech. During that time, forge can't be used again. However, we are going to allow the option of you buying more than one forge. So you could use 2 spots or 3 spots on your expansion spots and have multiple forges. And as long as you have all the appropriate requirements like credits, mech, USDT, blueprints, you could technically forges you have each 24-hour period, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think one of the next ones we could do on a bit more of stuff we've been thinking about with forges, having like wanting to have like, you have your stronghold, but then you've got like 40 different like things to plug into the stronghold, and you just got to figure out which ones you want to use for this week, like have that as a strategy kind of thing, and that kind of stuff. And all heaps of fun, exciting stuff ahead, man. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We're 20 minutes over already. That's probably about enough for me.
I think we should ought to wrap this up. So guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Again, I will get this recording up or rendered, and then uploaded to YouTube and linked to the chat. And then we can continue the conversation there. And then of course, we will have many more of these where we're going to go deeper dive into different pieces of this. So have a great night or morning, wherever you're at, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks, everyone. Catch us.